take that first step, make some sort of action. Action brings a little bit of progress that builds confidence, and next thing you know, you're building.
Hey, welcome back to the show. I have another very special guest with me today, David Forster with the Systems. What is it? Systems Over Sweat. Sorry, I had to look at my notes. SOS is kind of the short for your business, which I love. David, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. What is Systems Over Sweat? Like, what does that even mean? And just give us kind of 30,000 foot view. We'll dive into more, but just give us kind of an overview of who you are and what it is that you do.
Yeah. So I'm a Midwest farm kid that just couldn't stop playing in the dirt. Over the last 23 years, and then along with my wife, have built 7 businesses. This is our 8th. We've exited 4 of those over the years, 2 of those being landscape companies. And this Systems Over Sweat, the SOS, came out of kind of a play on words. Like, systems are better than just grinding it out, but it's also the systems are what's going to take the night sweats away, take away the stress, take away the things, just kind of help things operate smooth. And so after banging my head against the wall and learning things the hard way over 23 years, I decided that the best thing I could do was help other owners avoid some of those pitfalls and mistakes. And I'm a huge mental health advocate. Stress and anxiety stuff has affected a lot of people around me, including myself. So that's my big passion behind it.
Awesome. So you said 7 businesses. Is that right? You exited 7?
Exited 4, but we've built 7 before this one.
2 of them were landscaping companies. So obviously you know your way around some dirt and equipment. Let's start with this. Everyone talks about systems. You need systems in your business. It's such a broad term, right? And so let's just kind of break that down. Like, when we talk about systems, specifically in construction businesses, like, what are we talking about? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, that's a great point to make, because nowadays systems, it kind of gets just thrown in the bucket with automations and AI and my CRM and stuff like that. And those are all hugely valuable tools to leverage. More on the operations side, on the day-to-day, is going to be, how do you recruit, hire, and onboard somebody? What does that system look like? What's that process? Is it clear as a bell and they know exactly what their life is going to be for the first 30 days? Or are you still operating in that, hey, let's just get out there and figure this thing out. And if you could do this today while I'm doing that, we'll see how this plays out. That's kind of the lack of a system, but it's very common, right? It's a system. It's just kind of broken. Checklists, KPIs, measuring stuff of the performance and holding people accountable. Those are the things that on a day-to-day basis are going to really pay dividends.
So I think the word systems is just, widely used. I mean, in any business, you could have 100 different mini systems within the system, right? So like, the word system is not just like, here's this perfect checklist or whatever, then you just plug it in, everything works great. Right. So talk a little bit about some of the nuances of like, what does it actually mean? If I'm a contractor and I have no real systems in my business, right? What does that mean? Like, what do I need to start implementing? What does it mean for me to put systems in my business? What does that look like?
So, yeah, I mean, when you say no real systems, like, I like to tell anybody that I'm working with, you have systems.
Sure.
It's just, what do they look like? A lot of them just live in your head.
Right.
And you just don't have them on paper. So you're having to remember them every day. And so really, as a contractor, that first step is just getting the stuff that's in your head that happens repeatedly. If you do the same process every morning for load out, load up, like getting your crews out and getting your trucks set up and looking through your schedule and whatever, that's a system. That's your scheduling and morning load out schedule, or whatever you want to call it. Getting that out of your head is that first step, and putting that on paper, so that, the easy analogy is, if you're sick tomorrow or you're in the hospital, your business can still run. Somebody can pick it up and look at it, and they don't need to be calling you and asking you. It's there.
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of an oversimplified version, right? Because I could take everything out of my head and put it on a piece of paper. That doesn't mean that now it's a system that's going to work, right?
Right. Yeah. It's going to be a living document too.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's ever growing. You're not just going to you can't download it off the internet, put it in a 3-ring binder, and boom, now you have a business system. It's going to be something that you're going to manipulate, change, evaluate on a regular basis, see what's working.
Yeah. I mean, we think of that's what franchises do, right? I mean, basically a franchise is just a system in a box. Everything's documented in a 3-ring binder. Someone else figured it out for you. So, I mean, from a, speed to execution, franchises are valuable in that aspect, because you don't have to figure anything out, right? You're literally just following a process.
Just execute the process.
Just executing the process that should already be proven to work, right? That's kind of the pros of that. But most contractors, most small businesses, we're not starting franchises. We're starting from the ground up. One day we're, shoveling dirt for someone else. The next day we're shoveling dirt for ourselves. Right? And so now it's like, what do we do now? This isn't like everything is super complex and hard. I mean, like you said, we figure things out pretty quickly. We have this living in our head, but then we write it down on a document. And I use the word all the time. It's a living document. And I believe that 100%. I also use the term, it's always a first rough draft, right? Like you're always creating a first rough draft. And I think for a lot of contractors, myself included, I would do this. And I know a lot of my clients and other people I've talked to do this, but it's like, if I'm going to create a system, I want to sit down and then create the entire thing in one go, and then it's perfect and I never have to work on it again. Right. And like this, that's not how it works. So speaking a little bit about that process.
To kind of give a real world example, I'm working with a client right now who has a landscape construction company. They do beautiful backyards. He's been doing this for years and has kind of hit that plateau where he normally gets to, of just can't kind of get beyond it. And it's because everything's living in his head and he's running everything and everybody's answering to him. And we are in the process now of literally this week, we're building the process and the SOP around how to properly prep soil and install sod. That's one of the things we're putting together this week. Right. Okay. And so our goal isn't like, hey, in the next 30 days, we're just going to like vacuum everything out of your head.
Right.
And try to put it on paper. Cause then you could try to do that, but it's just going to be a mess. Right. So over the next 3 to 6 to maybe 12 months, we're going to continue week by week, 2 or 3 of these things, if not, whatever we can actually get accomplished and clear, and then use those to implement and train, use the team to give us feedback on, is it clear enough? Does this make sense? How are you perceiving it? And it's just continue to do that. And then as the team grows, we'll be able to break those down into different levels and different roles, how you train each level, those kind of things.
So it sounds like what I believe to be, I agree with you on this, but it sounds like the system that you're creating to operate your business is made up of 100 little systems, right? Yeah. Like the SOP on how to prep soil, that is a system within a larger system.
Yep.
Right. So talk us a little bit through, like, what does that process look like? Like, say I'm that contractor and you go, hey, we need to put together a soil prep SOP. What does that look like? Am I just writing it down on a piece of paper? Do I voice record it? Like, what are some tips and tricks on how to do that?
Yeah. And just to clarify for the listener, if they're like, I used to be like, SOP is standard operating procedure.
Right.
I was just, it's thrown around so much. And so, yeah, no, it's fun thinking back on like, all these terminologies and stuff that get thrown around. And there's so many acronyms for stuff these days. It's like, TLDR, like, what is that? Oh, too long, didn't read. Got it. Okay. So what he and I are doing, he's a verbal processor. We'll get on we're doing some daily chats just to kind of hear the pain points and get some things going as he's onboarding. And he'll start rattling stuff off. And I'm like, whoa, this is just on the phone. I'm not recording this one. Like, give me a voice memo with all of that. And he's like, oh yeah, okay, I can do that. So he'll send me a voice memo with just a step-by-step breakdown of what it takes to do this process. And then I can pause and rewind, or I can plug it into something that'll just take a summary of it for me. That'll get us started. And we can use that as our draft to then go back and massage it and figure that out. And then that next step was telling him also, hey, we're not going to come out and do like some professional photography. When you're on the site, or when one of your crew leaders is on site, every time you change to a new phase of that process, just take a picture on your phone. Like, we don't have to be fancy in the beginning.
Right.
Take a picture with your phone of what it looks like before you rough grade. And then once you've rough graded, what does that look like? And then once you've top dressed, what does that look like? And then once you've started laying sod, what does it look like? What do you mean by pin the edges? Take a picture of what it means to pin the edge of the sod. What does it mean to cut the edge? What does it mean? How do you cut sod? What's the right way to do it? And just get some snaps, just some quick, easy iPhone photos. Then we can use those in the SOPs for visual learners. So when you hand it to somebody and say, hey, I need you to go out and rough grade this, top dress it. That's all we're going to get done today on this size of a job or whatever. They know when they get there, if they get there and it's like, this looks really good, I'm supposed to rough grade, if they're not quite sure what the final is supposed to look like, they can look at the picture and go, oh, this has already been top dressed. Am I at the right property? And they can start asking the right questions. So it's that those little details can really make a huge difference.
Absolutely. Are you a fan of like a certain use software? Do you just go on paper? Like what do you recommend to your clients as far as delivering the SOP to their employees?
Depends on where they're at. If they're already using, something ServiceTitan, Jobber, Home, whatever, there's several options out there that are fantastic. If there's a tool within something they're already using, let's use it. Like if their guys are already carrying tablets that they can get stuff on. If they're not yet, that's like a whole nother learning process in itself to try to bring in a new CRM that has those tools. So you can start as simple as just a Google Doc. Most people have a Gmail workspace for their company, or at least a Gmail account or something like that. And whether you put it in a Google Doc that has pictures in it and then share it, or send them a PDF of it, that's the easy, simple way. But I love, once we're to that point, if we can bring it all into one system, one ecosystem of a CRM that can hold all of that stuff, that's the nice way.
Gotcha. So you kind of cater it to where they're at in the business. I mean, if you got somebody who's living in the Stone Ages and everything's still wrote down on paper, then maybe they need a 3-ring binder with the SOPs written out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what about, like, I've experienced this and I have a lot of people say this, I'm good, I'm gonna create SOPs, and my guys are maybe they're using a software already, so they know how to clock in and out and look at the work order and stuff. But now all of a sudden there's information where they have to like go and look at pictures or read a checklist or watch a video. And then there's like pushback from the employees. Do you address that at all? Do you have any tips on how to kind of integrate that part of it?
Yeah, we as business owners, we're usually fast paced and high autonomy type people. We want it to do this. That's why we're owners, right? We do it our way, and I'm going to do it real fast. I'll rip the Band-Aid off. Let's fix it. Yesterday was this way, today is different. Let's roll. And most of our team, if we have a well-balanced team for us that has skill sets that we don't, they're not wired that way. They may be fast-paced, but they're not super high autonomy. They need to be told what to do or whatever those dynamics might be. And so it's really been helpful to approach it in that a little bit more nuanced way, a little slower, introducing one step at a time. Hey, I'm not going to just totally rip the duct tape off your mouth here and totally change your life, and now your job is upside down and different. You're getting totally retrained after 3 years of being in your role or something.
Right.
It's, hey, we're going to add this in. We're going to kind of stress test it. We're going to field test it. Let's see how this works. We need to do this to improve, show them the value on the other end of it, why it's going to help them either be better at their job, have more career opportunity, better pay, whatever those things might add up to. I think it's going to make us more efficient. We'll be able to get more jobs done. And then because of that, I'll be able to pay you better, or we'll work in some different bonuses, or depending on your team and what they're inspired and motivated by, and introduce it a little bit at a time. And that's also why we don't necessarily dive into giving a CRM or like a software system right away. If your day is full of putting out fires, and now I'm telling you, hey, we still got to keep doing that, but I'm going to make you learn this thing that has 47 modules and all these. It's like we're here to de-stress, not to add stress. So
yeah, no, I love the part about the why, right? Like I think this is the part many people don't understand is like you said, as contractors, as owners, we're putting out fires all the time, and we're just like, move quickly, make decisions fast, like see big picture, but our employees don't see all that. They don't understand big picture. They don't see, all they know is like, oh, I'm supposed to go to this job tomorrow and do this work. Right. And then, but the why part of it is so important to get them on board. It's different. Like, hey, David, go out there and dig this, 20-foot trench by hand with a shovel. And you're like, what? We got a measure sitting right there.
Right. Yeah.
Well, because I said so, that's why. But then if you explain like, well, that whole area, there's all kinds of communication equipment going through there. Like, we have to try and dig that because you can't. Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Now I understand why.
Yeah.
But like, that's a silly example. But like when you start saying, hey, use this new SOP, we're going to start doing this. That means, you're going to spend an extra 10 minutes, reading through checklists and signing off and doing this. It's extra work for you. Yes, I understand that. But the reason why it's important is because now we can actually cut costs, cut waste, make more money. You benefit.
Less callbacks.
Yeah.
We're not having to make, return warranty trips because we made sure it was all done. And yeah.
So there's a benefit on the backside for them. So that's like explaining the why. What's your thoughts on, because the other thing is like getting buy-in. We're talking about getting buy-in. Like, why should I do this? Why is this important? What's your thoughts on having the team, whether it's a manager or just a guy in the field, whoever, helping you create the SOP or create the ideas behind that? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love it. If they're going to be the one executing it, you want that feedback. And like you said, that buy-in. If you create something, it's your idea, then you're much more likely to stick with it. We learned that with my dad when I was a kid, right? It's like, all right, we got to plant this seed because dad's going to say no. We know that. So if we plant the seed the right way and we make him think it was his idea, here in a couple of days, he'll turn around, right? It's like, so it's kind of that same tactic. It's bring your team in together. If they help create it, they're going to take ownership of it. And then there's going to be a lot more resistance to that shrug off too. If another teammate is like, you'll have the other team that was part of that creation that's like, hey man, I put a lot of effort into this. We're doing it.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
I've seen it, but not in a long time.
Well, there's a scene in there where his daughter wants to go take computer classes at the university. And they're Greek, right? So women don't go to school and do that. So the mom was like, we need to go and make him believe it's his idea. So they sit down at the table and they're giving all these ideas, kind of planting the seed. And then he was like, I know, you'll go to college and learn computer classes and then you can do that. And they're like, oh, that's a great idea. And that just pops my head whenever we talk about that.
Yeah.
It's true though. It's funny, but it's true that does have to happen.
Just as another quick little fun analogy that all of listeners will probably have heard this before, but I have a different approach to it that I've had since I've had kids. A lot of analogies in business is like your employees are like your kids or your business is like your kid, right?
Yep.
And I used to resist that. And I was just like, that's disrespectful. They're not children, they're adults. And a lot of people say, these aren't kids, they're adults. They need to understand and respect and know how to do this and have some, common sense. And And then I realized as a parent, you don't expect your one kid to understand and handle your other kid's athletic schedule, school, grades, all that stuff. They just focus on you want them to know their sports schedule and their activities and their grades and their stuff. And they know kind of what's going on in their brother or sister's life, and they're supportive of it. And they know, okay, how does that affect my life?
Right.
But they're not thinking about groceries and paying the bills and you don't expect them to.
Right.
So why would you expect your team to be thinking through all of that stuff and understand how that impacts their life when all they know is, I trust mom or dad to just dinner's going to be here. Right. So if you approach it in that way, you love your kids, you love seeing them develop. You have that investment in handling the parental duties. Being a business owner is very similar if you approach it from that mentality, and it gives you a lot more respect and just a different viewpoint of some of those frustrations that can come up.
Well, 100%. I agree with that. And I've said it before, your business is like your baby and it's like children and all that. Because, and this, and people hear this all the time, your employees are never going to work as hard as you, as the owner. And why should they? Because they don't have anything as much invested and they don't gain as much.
Right.
So I'm going to segue into a different thing here. Based on this, what is your recommendation on dumbing things down? And I always say, I always joke all the time, sometimes you have to employee proof your business, meaning you got to make it so easy or so simple or so blatantly obvious that they cannot get it wrong. What's your thoughts on level of sophistication down to how simple you make this?
I love leaning toward the, putting everything at kind of a 10-year-old, kind of 4th, 5th grade level. Then, the people who understand the more sophisticated part of it are going to understand it. And the people who don't are still going to understand it. Usually when you can simplify things, that shows your ability and your understanding of it at a higher level. The more simple you can make it shows your understanding of it, right? Your intellect level of the farther down you can bring it and make it a complex thing simple for your team just shows your leadership ability. And so I would highly say the more simple, the better. Simplifying, the more the merrier. I love the E-Myth
That's a great book.
Talks a lot about that. You should make it so simple a monkey can do it, and then you won't have to worry as much about your recruiting. I'm kind of somewhere in between on that and some other options.
Well, okay, so let's break this down like really very specific. If I'm going back to the soil prep situation, I mean, am I putting in a checklist or an SOP that says, go get the dirt out of the trailer, put the dirt in the wheelbarrow, take the wheelbarrow over, dump the wheelbarrow? Like, am I getting that laser specific, or am I assuming that there's enough common knowledge there to not have to put that in there?
That's the fun part, because I'm an efficiency, we would train our guys how to move a wheelbarrow, because if you're using too much arms and not using your shoulders and doing this, or like 6 hours into a day, when you're going in a tight area, you're going to be toast. So, maybe the wheelbarrowing is its own separate SOP and training. Okay. And so that should already be known at a base level before you get to this or something. But I like those details. You don't have to start there. And if it's not something that's holding your business back, it may not be super crucial right now.
Okay.
If you're doing $1 million in revenue, you've got 6 or 8 guys on your team, and they've all been in the industry for 10 plus years. And they just all naturally know, like, this is how you shovel without killing yourself, and this is the most efficient way. And you've got that going. Maybe you don't need to go ahead and do that yet. But then when you hire on a new apprentice kid and you see him destroying himself in the first hour and he's just going for it, and you're like, hey, man, then you say, hey, you know what? This could be good for him. Let's build that one this week. Let's use him as an example, and let's build that one. And that's where that living document comes in. Yeah. Do what you need. Do what's going to solve those problems now. What's going to make the business healthier now? And then something's going to come up where you're like, oh yeah, we should probably have, because I used to joke that if you need an SOP on how to go to the bathroom, like, you're probably going too far. But right, sometimes, there might be a condition where it's like, hey, just make sure you tell somebody. There's the SOP.
Right.
Hey, just a quick time out from the show. If you're a frustrated contractor who's dealing with low profit margins, stuck working on the tools every day, or doing free estimates for people who are never going to hire you in the first place, I invite you to my private contractor community, the Profit Club, where contractors just like you are adding 2 to 3 times more profit each year without producing any more jobs, and finally getting completely off the tools to never do another free estimate again. So if you're ready to increase your profits, stop doing free estimates, and get off the tools, then all you have to do is click the link in the show notes to learn more about the Profit Club and see how it can easily 2 to 3 times the cash in your pocket, give you a proven sales process that will convert more jobs with ease and get you off the tools once and for all. And the best part is you can do all of this without having to produce more jobs than you currently are. Click the link to learn more. Now let's get back to the show.
So it sounds like you're saying kind of start at a little bit higher level of information, and then if that's not enough, if there's still mistakes being made or things going wrong, then we add in extra detail to kind of eliminate some of that.
Yeah. And inevitably over, the next, how long do you plan on being in business, right? It's not something you're going to launch this thing for 2 years and then get out of here. That may happen, whatever that happens time to time. And it's more talked about these days, but if you plan on being in business 10, 15, 20, 25 years from now, different things are going to be needed, and you're going to continue to change those things a little bit at a time. And it's nothing to be afraid of, and it's nothing to, try to schedule like an entire week around this stuff all the time. It's just build it.
Well, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's like, I want to sit down, I need I need a better way to estimate. So I'm just going to sit down for 2 hours and create an entire estimating process. And you're like,
yeah.
First of all, the estimating process is one of the most detailed, difficult ones to really, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, to lay that out, it's not easy to do, right? So like, you take the hardest thing you can possibly systematize, and then you try and do that in one setting, like, you're just going to fail miserably. You're going to be so frustrated that you're not going to do that.
Yep.
So would you recommend starting with some stuff that's easier to kind of nail quickly, to build a little momentum and get used to it? Like, how do you recommend that, getting started?
Yeah. Simple is always better in all aspects. Getting those little wins. So just finding next time something pops up that you're like, why am I doing this again? Why am I explaining this again? There you go. Start with that one. And it's probably going to be something simple. You got a text message. Hey, what do you want us to do on this? Here's the 5 questions I would ask myself if I was in this situation. ask yourself those 5 questions, come up with a couple of options, and then call me back. Get that thinking thing going for your team. That's a great one to start with. But just find those pain points that whenever you want to throw your phone at the wall or something, there's probably a good place to start. So
yeah, the whole, man, I've told you 10 times what to do. Why you keep asking? Well, that's a very good indicator that you need some kind of system or SOP there to help solve that problem.
And if you're like me, all 10 of those times were slightly different. It sounded slightly different. You used different words, just depending on the mood you were in and what you were thinking about before that. And yeah.
Oh yeah. You know, you one day you're saying, do it this way. And then the next day you're telling them to do it completely opposite. And now they're confused because like, what? You told me yesterday to do it this way.
Well, that was because this one was...
Yeah, different set of circumstances. And it's like, you know, one micro of a difference in the process. And it's okay.
Yeah.
So you could really burn your team out trying to do that. I've made videos and joked about, you know, one of the reasons why when you show up and say, hey guys, we're going to change the way we do stuff. And they're like, again, you just changed it last week, right? Because we're always changing how we think about things, how we want to do stuff. We see a YouTube video where the guy's like, I did this and it worked great. And you're like, I'm going to try that. Yeah. And then you do it. And then the next week you see a different video on how to do that same process differently. Let's try it this way. Yeah. So you really can burn your guys out making all of these changes. I like this. I think it's a fun topic, but what about letting them make mistakes?
Yeah.
Learning the process.
Yeah. Like I'm going to take a deep breath real quick. Cause that's the hardest thing, right? I mean, we, as the owner, like we've just got usually so much experience, and we started out as a really good technician that did the job well. And so it's just like your kids. Like, you know, if you had a 2-year-old that's learning how to do something like I do right now, like you don't get frustrated with them. You know, you're just like, oh, well, she's about to, yep, there it went. Okay. It's just, and you're just waiting for those things to happen for teaching opportunities versus getting mad about it. So approaching it that way is really helpful. So you learned by making a bunch of mistakes. So yeah.
Well, we talked about this before we got on here about really like even maximizing or making, you know, being more profitable. That plays into that obviously, because if you're not profitable and then your guys are making mistakes, like that's eating your profit, right? And every penny hurts. Yep. So like you're in this world where it's like, I need you to execute perfectly every single day and never make a mistake because we can't afford to make any mistakes. And obviously that's not realistic.
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about that, like profitability in how you set up systems in your business so that you can be more profitable, and then that allows you to actually take a breath and, you know, train your guys. Can you just speak a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, as soon as you started saying that, you're like, I need you to execute perfectly every time. Otherwise we can't be profitable. The immediate thought was like, something's wrong in the pricing structure or in something somewhere, because that, you know, you mentioned some stuff before we got on and a little bit ago about estimating and the estimating process and how detailed it is. And that's huge. And that's a totally different subject, but like understanding that properly to have your right price structure that gives your team leeway, understanding how to build in those buffers, right? To allow for those mistakes to happen. Like if the mistake is we didn't bring enough material or we got too much material, like we would build in a material buffer. Like you can estimate certain things to a certain degree, but you never know what's underground. You know, you don't know what you're going to get into under a slab, or if you're, you know, remodeling a house and you take the drywall off and you're like, uh-oh, like, here we go. So building in those buffers that you can kind of under promise and over deliver. We do that for our customers. Let's do it for our team, right? If you expect that this job should take 80 man hours, well then, you know, let's give it 90 or 95 because there's something that we're missing. Like almost there's going to be some little detail or just a conversational customer that's going to be there every day. That's going to take a little more time. As polite as you can be, you just can't get away or whatever it is.
Yep.
And that allows for training for new guys. Because if you don't allow it in there for bringing on new guys, then you feel like you just lost money because of the new guy and then you're frustrated. Building that in there it's a huge advantage.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give, like you said, you got to give yourself space, right? Like a system when I had my business, I didn't do this for probably the first 8 or 9 years. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I just didn't do any job costing ever. Right.
Yeah.
And so
I don't think I did. I didn't either. Not in like in a true sense.
not in a true sense. I mean, didn't even know what it was. I mean, it's kind of funny. This is off topic, but people like today, there's so much information available that it's kind of like, why didn't you know that? Back when I started, the information was not available. You couldn't go on YouTube. You could go to the library and find a book that maybe someone wrote on it, but there wasn't information at your fingertips to just know what to do. I digress. So back to the job costing, like that is like to the example of the, you don't know what you're going to find. You start digging up and there's a ginormous boulder underneath there that's, adds an extra half yard worth of rock. Like you didn't expect that. But if I job cost that job at the end, and now I know that I need to have some kind of, factor for that in my next estimate, that system of job costing can save you on the very next job. And so like that idea, like, of just there's systems all over the place in your business and trying to figure out, from a profitability standpoint, adding in extra buffers. So every job you do, you learn. So at the next job, you save 5-10% because you learned on the last job, and then that job you learned more, so you save another 5 or 10% in terms of efficiency. And then over time you've built this up to be a super efficient machine.
Yeah. And even taking that a step further, like the job costing from like field perspective versus the job costing of the like the overhead perspective. We'll take I had it down to the minute when we were operating, and I had it down to like I knew on a 3/4 ton truck, we're going to replace the tires every this many miles. The tires cost this. So that truck runs this many miles a week or this many miles a month. So that truck's going to need tires at this date. And we would just like track all of that and then spreadsheet that out to, okay, what's our annual cost, including tires, oil changes, shop rags, utilities, like every belts on the motor. That's, maybe that's only every however many thousand miles. So that's once every other year or something. And once we knew something, it went on the list. As soon as we had to spend money on something, it was like, okay, when's the next time we have to spend money on that? And where do we put that in the list? And let's get that in there. So then, okay, well, daily to maintain our equipment and keep operating, it costs us, this much money a day. So if we do that in revenue, we broke even.
Right.
So like, okay, how do we make sure? Because when I was starting out, I'm like, cool, we did like $2,500 today. Like, that's awesome. It's like, yeah, but that's one day and there's 6 other days this week. Are they all that way? And how much did it cost you just in the morning, like for your business? So it's important to know that whole foundation of stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, you got to know your break even. You got to know what your labor rate is, your true labor burden, right? Because most people don't put their burden into their full, they don't have a fully burdened labor rate when they're charging. So they're charging for their lead guy, whatever, $40-$50 an hour, and it's costing them $52 an hour. They're like losing $2 an hour and don't even realize it because they haven't actually figured that out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, all right. So back to efficiencies and systems. So you were talking about earlier about, taking pictures, taking video, laying this out. Do you have like a preferred method? Like if you have a Google Doc, do you put pictures on there? Do you use a QR code to a video? Like what's your preferred method of organizing?
Yeah, I'd just doing the pictures right there in the SOP on the doc is the best way to start. And it depends on where your team and your own like technical savvy is at, right? So if you got your own little YouTube channel and you can shoot a video and then title it right and put that QR code next to that SOP and the guys can scan that and run over it and then watch a video, that's better. Video is always better than pictures because it's more real world. It's more real time. You can get your voice mixed in with it as well. If it's any kind of paperwork, super easy tool is like Loom or Scribe or any of those that you can screenshot and have your little video of you talking through as you're screenshotting you doing the document. There's not a ton of those in, the trade worlds, but any of the check sheets, any of the walkthroughs, any of the documentation that you're going to need to have, that's a huge tool. That's super easy and simple. So, yeah.
Yeah, I use all of those tools. So you'd appreciate this. Yesterday, I was actually writing out some SOPs for one of my employees that I hired recently. And one of her jobs is to send out packages whenever we bring a new client on. We ship them a package full of some things. And so writing out that SOP so she knows what goes in there and then also it has to be packed in a certain way in the box to make it all fit. You can't just throw it in there.
Yeah.
And so I had the checklist of all the stuff that needs to be in there. Took 3 pictures. One was like all of the stuff laid out on the table with everything that goes in there. Another picture was like the box halfway filled where you can see stuff. And then the third picture was the box completely filled and what it should look like. So I had those 3 pictures on the bottom with the instructions. And then I even made a video of actually packing everything into the box. And I put that onto a Vimeo, put it to a QR code, put the QR code on this paper. Now I could take this paper, laminate it, tape it to the desk, and now anybody can come in and read that and know exactly what to do.
And that could be, they didn't even talk to you on the way in the door, right?
Right.
Hey, I need you to pack these boxes. And each of the boxes next to you could be labeled, A, B, C, D. And on that, it's A, B, C, D or whatever. There's, that's great.
So, it seemed like, well, that's kind of silly. Like, and we're not doing like super high volume where we got to ship out 10 a day, right? So like maybe you could argue that wasn't like a super huge problem that I needed to solve in my business, but it bugged me. Like, it just bugged me. So
I
was like,
it's your business.
I don't want to have to keep repeating this. It took me maybe 30 minutes or so, 30, 40 minutes to do the entire thing.
Yeah.
And now I never have to do it again.
Yep. And if she moves on to something else and you need to hire somebody else, or she's sick and you need to have somebody else come in temporarily and do that real quick, or one of your kids or your wife or somebody else is going to come in and do something real quick, it's just,
So here,
it doesn't stress you out.
Yeah. Read that. I don't have to deal with it. The other thing, and I'd like to get your point on this, kind of what we were talking about earlier about getting feedback, but what's your thoughts on just having staff do the actual SOP for you?
Yeah, I love that idea in the right scenario. If you trust them to do that and they have the experience and the aptitude, and giving them simple process on what an SOP looks like to you is a great place to start. If you just say, hey, you guys build this.
Yeah. I was just like, you got to have a consistency in like how your SOPs are structured.
Yeah.
You don't want every SOP to be like completely different in terms of how it's structured. Yeah. I'm thinking like if you have an office manager and you're like, hey, can you do a Loom video or screen record of how you put the new leads information into the system?
Yep, absolutely.
Just
delegate as much as you can to an experienced and somebody that can put the real process and value in it.
Yeah. So like if I had my office manager, I was like, I want you to document everything you do so that if you leave, if you're sick, if we have to replace you, the next person can do it. Just literally document everything you do.
Yeah. I had my wife do the same. She was running the office for us. And I said, hey, if and when we have kids, or if we want to go do something, or we decide you don't want to be here anymore, whatever. Like I need to know what you do so that I can easily train. And
people don't think about this because it's like, well, I have an office person. They're just going to work for me forever. And I never have to train anyone to do this again. Right?
Yeah.
But if that person leaves and you have no documentation, now you're going to spend 40, 50 hours of your time training the next person that comes in.
Yeah. Can I approach that from a slightly different perspective too? That's getting more popular to talk about.
Sure. Yeah.
What if you want to sell your business?
Absolutely.
Like if I'm coming in to buy your business and you got nothing in place and you're just like, well, Jan's worked here for 37 years. I'm thinking to myself, 37 years, I maybe have 2 left.
Yeah.
Like if I don't know what Jan does, now you're putting the burden on me to figure out what all Jan has done in 37 years to make this thing float smooth as the new buyer. So the value just went because I have more work to do.
Right.
To make it and a lot of guys, they're not in it to sell the business necessarily, at least not right now. Right.
But you don't know what the future holds either.
I was going to say, shift that just a slight bit more. You wake up tomorrow morning and you get a phone call that totally rocks your world. If you're looking for freedom in owning a business, to wake up, get that phone call and know, dang it, I need a large sum of money in order to take care of this problem, or it's a health issue, or somebody passes, or something happens, right? And there's a total life shift.
Yeah.
To know that I can either step away for a long period of time and my business is fine, my family is fine, my team is fine, everybody's taken care of. Or if I need to sell this thing tomorrow, I'd have people knocking down the door. Like that's an amazing feeling of freedom that these systems will put in place for you. It's just a different perspective that I had shifted a while back, that because I know a lot of my clients I didn't start this thing to sell it. I'm not even thinking about it. Maybe I want to give it to my kids. Like, well, what do you want to give to your kids? A mess? Or do you want to give them something where they can truly have a valuable asset and lead something, right?
Yeah, I think that's the one thing I took away from the E-Myth was about, build your business like you're going to franchise it, even if you don't even plan on franchising it, because to your point, you're building all the systems that you would need to franchise the business. And then that makes it trackable to people who are interested in buying it.
Yeah. Or just gives you a lifestyle that you love running your business. You love doing it. But if, you have something happen and you need to be gone for a week or a month or whatever, it's not even a question. It's just, yeah, this is fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. I mean, the systems are all over the place. There's software you can buy, there's services you can buy that will do it all for you. There's templates. I personally am not a huge fan of like SOP templates, just because I've talked to hundreds of contractors and worked with them, and no two businesses are the same.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times when you take templates and like complete systems and you try to implement them, it just wreaks havoc on everything. Because, it's set up for one style and then now 50% of it has to be changed. And
yeah,
I don't know about your thoughts on that, but templates are good. Don't get me wrong. Examples are good, but having like a complete system sometimes can be actually more work.
Yeah. And I have lots of templates that we use, and they're mostly loaded with the right question to ask to get the answer that section needs. Role descriptions, asking yourself, how is this person going to be measured? What's their performance measured by? And what are the things that they own? What are their responsibilities, and what skill sets do they really need? And those things versus like a crew leader or a superintendent. Boom, this is what it is. This is what a superintendent does. And it's like, well, you're general,
but not for this one.
Yeah, exactly. So asking the right questions to fill in what you need, being able to pull the information out without just saying like, hey, write all this down. Like, I don't even know where to start. Like, ask me something, get me started. So
yeah, exactly. They're kind of like conversation starters or just, examples of where to start. But I'm always leery when I see ads and stuff on TV where it's like, we'll come in and, systematize your entire business and you don't have to lift a single finger. And I'm like, yeah, that's not.
I had a CPA when I had my first landscape business that came in to show me how to use QuickBooks. And all I did was move all the tiles around on the home screen. And because he said, oh, you got this set up all wrong. And he moves it all around. He didn't show me how to use anything. And then he leaves. And I was like, I don't know how to use it any better than I did when he got here. And now I don't know how to find anything because he just moved all the stuff that I knew where it was. Like, crap. So now it's worse. And I paid money for this. Bah!
Yeah, basically he organized it in a way that probably is the correct way to organize it.
Yeah.
But didn't actually help you at all.
Yeah. Especially if I just hired him to just do all the bookkeeping, right? So
yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, we're coming to an end on time. David, I always like to, a couple things. Tell us a little bit about your services, where people can reach you if they're interested in learning more about what you do.
So I enjoy finding all of the problems to solve, efficiencies, building this stuff out with my clients. I don't like to fall into the normal consultant bucket. I'm going to be right there with you, shoulder to shoulder, and building alongside you. And so if that's something you need, you kind of need that second in command to kind of make sure the wheels don't fall off, but you don't necessarily have that ready for that person full time and in place yet, or how to get that person in place, then we can definitely work on some solutions for that. The best place to find me is systemsoversweat.com is the website. You can schedule something with me there, or just email me df@dfscales.com. And you can always find me on Facebook or LinkedIn, David Forster. So
we'll put the links in the show notes too, guys, if you want to check out his services.
Yeah.
David, I appreciate you being on the show. I always like to ask people one question, and that is, what's a book that you're currently reading or one that you would recommend?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to dive back into Atomic Habits for like the 5th time, which relates really well to how we were talking about things. That's how you build habits in your life. That's how you can build systems into your business, is just those little things that remove resistance. Start doing that, and then you'll start building that flywheel of momentum. And
yeah, it just starts with one little change, right? That's the beginning of it. The desire to want to change, and then start implementing. And then it's kind of like sometimes when you're doing a project, landscaping, build a deck, remodel, sometimes you don't actually know how to complete the whole project from start to finish. You just got to start it, right?
Yeah.
And then once you start it, the pieces start falling into place as you're going through that. So that's back to like the living document, the rough draft, the whole concept of just get started and then kind of fill in the pieces as you go.
Take that first step, make some sort of action. Action brings a little bit of progress that builds confidence. And next thing you know, you're building.
And then you get addicted to it. And then you're like, you can't make enough systems. And that's when you really drive your teams crazy.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, David, thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate you, your knowledge and sharing that.
Yeah. I appreciate the time.
Awesome. Well, guys, that's the end of the show. You know where to find me on the socials, Hammer and Grind Podcast, or go to the show notes and get information there. Thanks for hanging out with us. And until next time, remember, profit is not a dirty word.